Cool. All right. We'll get started with questions for head coach Cindy Ball-Malone.
Cindy, is it okay?
Yep.
You look at the schedule. You guys have 10 teams that are ranked in the top 25 of the D1 ranking. What kind of thought process do you go into when you want to put your schedule together? Was it more to challenge the team? Is it to build the resume? Kind of what's your thought process?
Yeah, to make light of it, actually, it sounds like a really good idea while you're doing it. And now scouting for the next couple of weeks, I was like, who made this? But no, it's traditionally we want to have the toughest schedule to build our team, prepare our team. And there's a lot of other thought that goes into it, not only testing them early, but in order to play amongst the best later on in the season, you have to know what you're going up against. And so it helps with the RPI rankings. And I mean, the other thing is we do have goals and aspirations to continue to get in there and host a regional again, and then some. So putting our team in the best place to do it, and then now we have to execute.
How do you balance confidence that may be hit a little bit if you lose a game or two or more?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think our group is really bought into that confidence is built on preparation. Now, success has to be involved in it, and so I think that there's a good balance of that. But I also think that there's such thing as false confidence too. And so if you're constantly facing teams that aren't, creating that adversity in games, then you can have some false confidence going into a team where you get in and you're like, whoa, we weren't ready for this. And so I think it's a good balance of that. But our team's really bought into really being into the process and trusting the process, and then execution along with it. I mean, you can't get caught up in a process. There's got to be some results at the end. And so I think it's a fine balance of both. But I think, again, every day that we're training, we try to make our practices really, really difficult. We've been inviting the hard this year, inviting those difficult times within our strength and conditioning program. And so we're hoping that now there's no such thing as easy, but when we get into it, we're hoping that it's going to really prepare us so that we can just be and do when the moment comes.
Coach, this is one of the top recruiting classes in program history, but it's also a very young roster. What is the emphasis going to be like on your veterans coming into this season to help lead this group?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the past it's really done well for us to have a younger team, because I think with experience and age, sometimes you start to find out things, you're like, oh, that didn't work, right? And so there's a little bit of hesitation when things come into place with that. So I do love that we've got that youth coming back. I think we can, figure out who's going to be the next in the positions that we've had very strong players in. And so for our vets, I just look at them to teach who we are in our program, what UCF softball is, why we are so successful, and continue to do that and push a little bit further.
Kind of piggybacking off that, you've had the same core of players for a while now. Now you're betting in a new roster. Are you excited that you get some of the top competition to play against them, to see how they kind of are in that fire?
Yeah. Well, I got to start off with saying that those 11 seniors that we graduated, I miss them as human beings. On the field, obviously, they were great, but we miss them as human beings every day. And so I do try to reach out to them as much as possible. Now moving forward, to get our team in there, we talked about hey, we're going to be the playground kids, and we're going to get after it. As soon as that bell rings to where we can go out to recess, we're going to play hard. And if you know playground kids, recess is serious time for them, right? And so we're going to get out there and we're going to play as hard as we can until they tell us that the game is over. So to be thrown into the fire like they're going to be, truly excited for it. And I want to embrace everything, and I hope they do too, right? So that means, we're going to have some ups and some downs, but there's no bad days in the game of softball. It's just, you're going to have some off moments and some really good moments, and then we do it all again.
Coach, what does it mean to you then to have two of those seniors in Sarah Willis and Shannon Doherty coming back as grad assistants this year?
Yeah, it means everything. So blessed and honored to be able to say that they want to come back and be with us and continue to give back and pour into this program. and at the same time being able to be with them and learn from them has been awesome, not only for our young athletes and our young women, but myself too. So to continue the tradition of our sport and our program here at UCF it's really important. And you've got, I keep telling Shannon she's got to slow down. She can't take my job too soon here because she's really good at what she does. And then for Sarah to be here and still be involved in everything that she's involved with as far as playing the game, it means so much for her to share her experiences and what she went through in her first year with Athletes Unlimited, now getting drafted. It's just been really special to be able to watch that and for our athletes to be able to see it every day. We have a lot of our women come in here and they want to win here while they're at UCF, and then they want to continue to play again and more. So to have mentors and examples around them every day I couldn't ask for anything more than that.
How important is it to have those two to help establish, to keep the culture going in what you're trying to build here on this program, to be able to have kind of be your voice through them to the other players?
Yeah, they're definitely reminders. They remind me of how much I forgot that we do things, and they're like, remember this? I'm like, we did that? Oh yeah, we did that. Yeah. So it's really awesome to be able to see what stuck with them, right? Because it may have just been an idea or a concept that we talked about, and they hung on to it. And so it just reminds me when we tell our women, you never know who's watching. You never know what type of impact you could have on any fan, any young girl that's watching you play. And so really being mindful and be intentional with what you're doing and what you're saying, and who you want to be, and keep going from there. So to have them reminding us of that and push it a little bit further is nice. Like, they're challenging me this year, and it's not a lie when you say teaching that old dog new tricks. Like, it's definitely put me in some vulnerable moments of like, well, I don't want to do that. I want to do it how we've always done it. But they know what it takes. They know where we've kind of maybe missed a few things, and they're tired of ending their season in a regional, right? And so for players to have moved on past their own careers in college and want to help a program get past it and be better and say that is just so powerful. To hear Shannon Doherty, who's been a part of such talented teams here and has set so many historical like awards historical moments and just the things that she's captured while she's been here for her career, to say this team could take us further than any other team has. Wow. Like, I'm just blown away by how bought in she is into this program and these young women.
With that in mind, you've had Shannon and Jasmine as your first baseman since you've been here, give and take a couple of games. What are you looking at first base? Because Shannon and Jazz were like vocal leaders at first base there, and then even right field with Chloe and Denali before that. You've kind of had 2 third right fielders. So tell me about those two positions and what you're looking at.
Yeah. Well, I think, when you talk about it, you're like, oh, you've graduated so many people across the field there. But we also have a lot of returners that have some good playing time. And I think they're underlooked, and good for us if that's going to happen. It's making them work really hard. They're gritty. And so they're ready to do what they need to do. But we had a big young class in that freshman class last year that knew that they were paying their dues, right? They were trying to beat some of those seniors out for a position, and understood that it's not just 1 year when it comes to having a career here at UCF. And so I think that them coming in, they already know what it takes. They got to see it firsthand, and they're sharing that with those incoming freshmen and transfers this year. At first base, I mean, we have quite a few good options. We've got another one in Ashley Griffin, who's been here for some big moments for UCF. And so I think that we could transition and kind of move her behind the plate over to first. She's definitely got a coach's mind out there. She knows the game, the strategy, And so I would feel comfortable with that. And then we have 2 freshmen that can also play there, in Izzy Mertez and Kendall Yarnell. So excited about that. And I mean, our infield is still pretty solid because we've got a Samantha Ray who got some good innings in the infield last year, as well as in the outfield. Aubrey Evans has been a key player, a staple in our lineup since she arrived here at UCF. And then Cece Humphreys, or Sierra Humphreys, has also played a ton of innings and some big time moments as well. So though it may seem we're young, we still have some veteran players out there. Our outfield is probably what will look the most different, and we'll kind of figure that out. You know how I like to mix the lineup up. That was really hard to say. The line up around. How about that? And and so we're going to find out what's the best fit, what's the best mix for this group. And I mean, I don't expect to figure it out in the first couple of weeks. It kind of will come along as it always does. So I'm really excited for that.
Speaking
How
of,
has the Big 12 transition helped you to shape your new players and balancing with the old ones I already had before?
Yeah. Well, I think we're starting to get into that. You know, when players committed here in years past, they committed here with kind of a different goal, and we were playing in a different conference. And so now, this year, this freshman class, when they committed, they knew we were going into the Big 12. And so they knew what they were signing up for every single day. They knew that, you know, getting to the World Series, competing for a national championship, those would be things that we would be talking about on a daily basis. Whereas maybe in years past, we were talking about winning a conference championship, hosting a regional, getting to a supers. And so the goal, I don't know if we're saying the ceiling was, you know, lifted, but definitely the floor has been raised. And so now we're moving above and beyond. And so to have those incomers come in with that understanding, instead of them kind of being here through the transition and not knowing, is refreshing, right? We love all the athletes and women that have played in this program. But there was that challenge when we had players here that were coming to get a good education, play in a competitive program, and maybe all of those things weren't stated every day, and now they are, and you know, they know what they signed up for.
Coach, with Ray and Humphreys coming back after being named to the All Big 12 freshman team, what has it been like for them welcoming new freshmen into the mix, and who among this freshman class could we maybe see the next Ray and Humphreys as far as freshman phenoms go?
It's a tough question to answer. So I'll answer the second question first. We have 5 freshmen that are all very talented. They will do some things, like if you watch them MVP and you see some big power from our offense and everyone thinks, oh, what returners are those? And it's like the freshman group, right? We also have 2 arms in that freshman class that can really throw, and they've done it in a very high level with the women's national team from Puerto Rico. So it's really exciting to see that. And I did mention the 2 arms. So we actually have 5 incoming freshmen, and then we have 2 redshirt freshmen that got some great time training, practicing with the group last year. So I don't know if I can give one name. I think I'm hoping that it's going to be which day, you know, who is it? And it's going to be somebody new every day is what I'm looking for. But now go back to Cece and Ray Ray. That's what we call them. They have just done such a great job. They may not be captains or in the captain group, but they are definitely leaders on the field, in the game, in the moment. People watch them, they follow them. They have such a great passion for not only this team, everybody in it, but they want to win, right? If you ask Cece, which you're going to talk to her today, you ask her what she's most excited for, she's going to tell you winning. And then same thing with Ray Ray. Both of those women have won at such a high level prior to getting into here, and then being able to have some big time moments for us in games last year is huge for us. And so they're definitely our gamers. They're somewhat of like the young playground kids, but then there are big time gamers that, you they're going to carry a load. So we graduated like a Jada Cody and a Shannon Doherty that were here for their whole career. They played 5 years, did some amazing things. And at our opening day dinner, there were some things mentioned about how they were the winningest players that had ever stepped foot here at UCF softball. And so at that dinner, I pulled my phone out, don't tell the team, and I text, well, 2 of them now, Cece and Ray Ray, and I said, wow, someone's got to fill those shoes. It'd be pretty cool if you know who those 2 next players could be. And of course, I'm not going to share all the inside scoop, but they were fired up and ready to go. So I expect them to be consistent every day for what our program needs.
Coach, you talk about the energy on the field, but can you tell us more about like the chemistry that these girls have off the field?
Yeah. Well, you give them a day off, and then you hear about how they all hung out. They go and eat lunch and dinner and breakfast at Garvey together. That's our nutrition center, our fueling center, and then they'll go to museums. They will go to church together. I mean, there's so many things that they plan to do with each other. And they love movie nights, and I think they're doing this whole new thing with vlogging and like the day in the life of. And I'm learning. It's vlogging, right? I'm learning all the words and terminology, but they just love to be around each other. It's fun because, you can still get annoyed with each other, right? We're one big family. But I think them learning each other off the field is going to be so important and powerful for us, right? Because sometimes, I heard in a message today, we usually are the last ones to know when something's going on with us, right? And it was said like, yeah, I think so. I think I'm not fine. And the person goes, well, no, duh, we've noticed that. Right? And so in order to be with a team, involved in a team, and have pressure on you every single day, which is a privilege, you got to have people around you that can support you and kind of protect you from yourself. And so that energy and passion, not only for winning, competing, our program, for each other, and watching them get so excited when they accomplish something is, it needs to get out there more. Like, women supporting women is so important. And I don't mean to get on like a soapbox or anything, but it is. If we want people to support us, then we got to start supporting ourselves first. And there's still healthy competition. There's still some like little chatter amongst each other. But they do such a good job of balancing that out, especially in the locker room.
Coach, how do you handicap the new look Big 12? Oklahoma, Texas move on, new additions. What do you say about the look of this league this season?
Yeah, that question has been asked quite a bit. And when you think about collegiate softball, some of the programs that have entered this year with that transition in Arizona and Arizona State, both have numerous national championships under their belt. So yes, like Oklahoma's won the last 4 national championships. But Arizona is one that I grew up watching play over and over again, and I think that they have such a strong tradition and program as well. So I don't think we're skipping a beat. I think we just kind of put something in that's going to keep us where we need to be as a conference, and it's still a grind every single day. So and not to forget Utah, who was just in the World Series, I believe 2 years ago. The years kind of go together for me now. Still a mom of 3 boys, so I think I might be right. Someone in the room right now, yeah.
2023.
2 years ago, right? Yeah.
Coach, kind of circling back to the veterans, let's take a look at the pitchers. You get back Caitlin, who she's entering her senior season. She's been here the whole time. How has she kind of turned into like a pillar of this program for you, and what is her importance going into the season?
Yeah. Well, she's always had such a huge role, whether she was a starting pitcher, a relief pitcher coming in. She played a big role in that 22 year, even though we had Mancha and Woodall throwing the majority of our innings, because there were times she came in and kind of, closed out some games for us. So to see her grow with the program it's been awesome. And She's always been a part of really strong staffs, and so she's making sure that that is known, that that's important for our pitching staff. We want to be competitive. We all want to fight for the ball. And then when we're in there, we understand, like, we're fighting for whoever's in the circle, and then we're ready for our name to be called. So she's definitely sharing that tradition that we've built amongst the years with our pitching staff. And then now I want to see her and challenge her to become even more of a leader when it comes to being the face that the team needs to see, especially in times of adversity during the game, right? So when I go back to, years in the past, like we'll say 23 is Sarah Willis, just, all right, jump on my back, let's go. We're going to go win an American Conference, and maybe the season didn't go the way it was supposed to, but that doesn't mean that we have to be done. And then you got 22 with Mancha and Woodall, who just, wow. Like, I don't even know if there's words to explain what they did that year. And then Aaliyah White, who, just the things that she could do in those moments and the teams that she could beat. We all looked to her, and we knew that there was confidence within our team because they were in the circle and they had the ball. And so I think now that's the challenge of, it's her turn to figure that out and get through that with probably our toughest schedule that we've had. And we've had some darn tough ones. But I guess, you challenge my competitive spirit, and I'm like, okay, let's do a little bit more. So, yep, I look at all these numbers next to these names of these teams that we're going to face in the next 12 days, and it's going to be fun.
Coach, you talk about your three boys. How has it been being a boy mom, and how does that transcend you being a coach here at UCF?
It's a fun balance. However, I do think the three boys are definitely beating the 21 females. That's how much energy they have at home. Holy cow. But it's a great balance. I think just being able to see all of it mesh together is so much fun, right? We got to go to the women's basketball game yesterday. We got to sit with some of our athletes, and our kids run up to them like they're aunts or uncles or cousins. And so, some people ask me, like, how do you do it? And it's hard. I constantly feel split, like my heart's in two different spots. But I will say, not many people ask men that, and their dads too, right? And so I constantly will say, like, oh, I could be a better mom in this way. I could be doing this. I could be doing that. But our kids get to grow up with some strong, independent women, some athletes. They walk by some of the biggest athletes on our UCF teams. I think my oldest son traveled with us to Houston last year, and he got to meet the basketball coach there, and he's like, yeah, I know him, And so then I remind myself, like, there's not many kids that get to grow up doing this. And so it does look different. Sometimes it feels chaotic and whatnot, but yeah, I'm enjoying the process of figuring that out and learning. So yeah, I was told today that I did get fired from being a mom for 2 seconds, and I was like, hallelujah, I get to pack my bags, and they're like, no, just kidding. And it's like, yeah, okay. But yeah, it's fun. And then you got my little 4-year-old that brought this little picture of this dream pool, and he said, Mom, if you win all your games, can we buy this pool? And you just have to laugh, like, why does he know that? But it's just a fun little balance. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did.
Okay.
Coach, given how many seniors you graduated this year, how would you characterize this year's team differently from last time, given the injection of new blood into the system?
I'm going to give you a really uncut, honest answer. Last year we had so many awesome teammates that were really highly successful as individuals, right? And so how do you balance that? And I think, like, people will talk about, like, the Yankees, right? We have all these high-level athletes, and we did. From Jada Cody to Chloe Evans to Shannon Dory to Sarah Willis to Jasmine Williams. The list goes on and on of who was on our team and what they could do. And they were so focused on being the best for their team. And I totally believe that your best player has to be selfish, right? And your best players have to. But I think in the midst of all of that, we forgot to play as a team. And I don't think it was out of spite or wanting to be the best or anything like that. I just think it was they were trying so hard to be the best for their team that they forgot, I don't have to do it every time myself. I've got this person and this person, right? And so it's been really fun to see this group learn from that. And it's not a negative, it's a totally natural thing. I think they were doing what they were supposed to do last year. But it's fun to watch this team really step into, we're going to make the team be the spotlight, not an individual. And we'll see if that continues to happen, because success brings funny things about. So that's what I've seen is we're learning that it's team first, then we'll check out our teammates, then I'll focus on myself.
So like a greater of the sum of its parts type of thing.
Yes.
Coach, you go back to, you mentioned your schedule and the teams that you're going to play over the next 12 days. You play several doubleheaders this month. What is your key to staying focused and sharp early in the season?
Yeah. Well, we've been preparing for this, especially in the weight room and conditioning. We've been really educating them from a standpoint of all the things we can control, right? Like how are we fueling our body, how much sleep we're talking about. One of our captains actually just mentioned that we really need to focus on sleep, our academics, all the things that come about with it. Because, people talk about, well, you have a double header. Yeah, but also usually Saturday and Sunday night, they have to submit assignments. And so we talked about that as, especially for our younger class of, hey, you can't get so excited for that big win. You got to go do your homework afterwards. And so those are the things that we've been focused on with that. But then, yeah, there's so many things that can kind of get in the way of their focus for those type of doubleheaders. And it's not negative, but I definitely think it's out there. It's hard to stay focused. I constantly feel like I'm like squirrel, because there's so many things out there now, and they have to, expose themselves. That's what the world is now. And it's great. It's also really hard to lock in and dial in. And that's why I do like this group, because they, again, I'm going to go back to those playground kids. They just, when it's time to play, they play hard, and they may not hear that bell, ring to where they're supposed to freeze on the playground, and then they have to line up. They may keep playing, and they have to ring that bell like 3 or 4 times. And I like that about that.
Got time for 1 or 2 more?
Cindy, obviously you're locked into this season, but have you given much thought about the upcoming house settlement issues and how that is going to impact your sport particularly, and what you need to do with rev share and things like that? Has that even crossed your plate at all, or is it so focused on preparing for the season that's just something down the road you're going to deal with?
It's definitely crossed my mind. It's conversations that we have with administrators, my supervisor, and I know Terry's done a really good job of getting to the bottom of, well, what are we going to provide? What can we sustain? And he's always about taking care of our athletes. So I think it's awesome that we get to talk about it, especially in the sport of softball, because I remember back in the day when NIL was a thing and people were saying, oh, this is only for football and basketball. Well, we had an athlete that was making quite a bit of money last year because of NIL. So I just think that it's so cool that we're in that position. And when the time comes for that to happen and we get the amounts that we're told, I'm looking forward to it. We've been told that we're going to be supported very well, and with some of the numbers that we've been kind of projected for, it's exciting. But I do think there's still education that needs to be, not only for me and our staff and our women, because people always are out there like, oh, now everyone gets 25 scholarships. That's not what that means. And even of the biggest schools with the most money, that's not what that means. And so we're just going to have to really educate ourselves to understand what that looks like, especially in our sport. But I am excited for it. I haven't thought about it for a little bit now, but I am looking forward to those fun financial headaches later on. I was a science major, and so I should have done something different before I got here when it came to like business and budgeting and all that stuff. But it's good times, and we are excited that they're supporting our team and our program here at UCF as well as they are.
Coach.
How do you think the UCF softball brand has changed during your tenure? And what is it now?
Well, people always tell me that we have energy, we're feisty, we're competitive, and we're really hard to play. So I think that still stays the same. And typically they don't like to face our pitching is what I remember. So from what people have said, but I think just being competitive. I hear that a lot. That's who I am. That's what our women are. That's what this program's all about. And I think it's going to continue to be there. We're not going to let you forget about us.
Coach, I feel like you have a track record of bringing in really good assistants, and then they get head coaching opportunities after working with you. So how has that been throughout the years? How have you stayed so consistent?
Well, it's an awesome thing, right? Because I remember being in their shoes and wanting to be a head coach. And so it is an awesome thing. But staying consistent is, really like, it has been learning curve these last couple of years of having to kind of re-teach things, introduce things, but then we've kind of like adjusted a few things along the way. But really getting back to you're successful because of the things that we do. We don't have to change too much, just a few little adjustments here and there, and then just being really good at it over and over again. But then we have, like a Shannon Doherty and Sarah Willis that have, and a Shannon Sale that have stayed on staff with us and reminded us of all the things that we do that are pretty special. So I think that's been the biggest key. But, they come in saying they want to be head coaches. And I've been asking, like, just give me a couple years. But, we're not going to tell them to do that. So I think it's a pat on the back for sure.
Question for Bryson.
Coach, I still remember your mysterious abbreviated mantra SDW from last year. We never ended up learning what it was, but what is the mantra for the team this time around?
One of them kind of came about through spring training, so we have two. So it's TPK, and I've kind of hinted at some of it a little bit throughout the time here. And then the second one is we've been talking about being Weeble Wobbles. And so if you guys know what those are, some of the youngsters probably don't. There's like this little toy that you would like hit and it would go down and then come back up. And Weebles wobble, but they never fall down. And so we were just talking about that in spring training, and it's kind of stuck. And then now everywhere we go, we're hearing about wobbling. And yesterday, we're at the women's basketball game and the wobble song comes on and we're all looking at each other like, it's a sign. And so it's just, wobbling is okay, and we might get down there, but we got to get back up. We're not going to stay down there. So
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.